Drake Hawkins, Musically Optimistic here, and today I'm going to be doing something different. I will be interviewing a Scubadiver fan. I have trashed a lot of Scubadiver's music in the past. I'm going to be getting someone else's opinion on it, and we're going to have a nice in-depth discussion about what works, what doesn't. And so, yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, you can go ahead and do that.
My name's
Scubadiver fan.
I'm a scuba diver scholar. Discovered him back in 2021, right before the drop of Apple Cider Ranch. So, yeah, we should just get into it, eh?
I'll say that I discovered him with his Godspeed 2 project. I think there was like a single or two beforehand that I listened to. But he came onto my radar because another rapper that I talked to a lot,
Rapper.
he put me onto him. He just sent me some of his stuff over Instagram, sent me his TikTok page, and so I just listened to his album that dropped, which was Godspeed 2. Made a video on it, which is now like one of my most viewed. Funny, I didn't even expect it to blow up like that. And one of the biggest things in the comments was just roasting my appearance because I was having a terrible hair day that day. I didn't wash it the day before, so it looked greasy as all hell.
Hey, same here.
Yeah, and going back to the album recently during my Discog listen, I expected my opinion to change a little bit, but it honestly didn't, and so I guess I'd just like to hear what you would have to say and what makes the album click for you or something. So I guess let's just start with that album, Godspeed 2.
Alright, so Godspeed 2 is an interesting one, because there's lots of stylistic choices on here that are just, like... Yeah, there can be some basic parts and some basic melodies. Obviously, the lyrics are a bit off at some points.
At
you know,
times, yeah.
obviously on Windows, that one line.
Cut off all the dicks in my life like a vasectomy.
Yeah, that one doesn't make much sense because vasectomy is not that.
It's not chopping the dick off.
But there's a lot of stuff that there is to like about that album. So like chord progressions, obviously the solos. They're good. Like you said, they sound a little bit like someone who just picked up a guitar. But one of the things I really like about the album is the really story progression. And you don't like Scubadiver's high pitched up vocals, but
Not really, no.
in the album there's a theme to it. So we started off with Collaborate, and that's like the prime of the ego. The whole album's about ego death. It's about losing your ego. So the high voice picks up as the album goes on. You get to hear more and more of it with, say, like, then you get Underweight, which is almost a pitched up song, and then you get Junior Ballad, which is just pure pitched up. The more pitched up it gets, it shows the more morale he's getting, the more mortality he's realizing that he's going through. So that's one thing I think is cool, but I still don't understand why he chose to put the first solo as not his ego solo. Like, that's something I still don't get, because the whole point of the album is to show, like, ego turning into realization of mortality.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I don't understand why they put Moral Solo up first.
Yeah, because if it's supposed to be like an ego death sort of thing, it should be like ego and then mortal at the last
Yeah.
part. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And listening back to the album, I still don't really care for the solos, but like I do see them as like a good breather point for the album, because like a lot of the production and everything is still pretty lush and dense. That's one of the things that I do appreciate about Scubadiver's music, is that the production can be pretty up to par, even if I don't care about anything else that's happening in the song. The production is still interesting, and having these sort of nice little calm, minimal breathers is pretty nice for the record. So I do appreciate the solos for that, even if I don't think the solo is all that flashy or whatever.
Like, yeah, like you said, they're kind of like a breathing point in the album, because it's so dense into one. Like, it's 10 tracks, and
Yeah.
they all move. You say they move pretty slow, but after listening to it so much, they move really fast for me. So everything's all densely packed. When the album first came out, I wish it was longer, because I feel like there was much more he could have said. There could have been a little more time. That's what Scubadiver, I think, describes as his like magnum opus. Like, that's his follow-up to Stealing Traffic Cones. Which I personally, I'm a big fan of Stealing Traffic Cones. I think it does what it needs to do. some of its best production to date. I liked a lot of the samples used on it.
Going on over to Stealing Traffic Cones, personally, now I've only listened to Stealing Traffic Cones and Apple Cider Ranch once. Apple Cider Ranch I skipped around because there were some parts on it that I didn't like, but yeah, Stealing Traffic Cones from the first listen of it, I think is easily his best project. Yeah, his production is much more consistent on there. The only main things that drag down the album for me is that I remember at least is the skits and the story. Maybe I just wasn't entirely piecing it together, but I get that the main story is like you buy the record from the record store. This is the album, and now my dog just walked in. Hold on. He buys the album from the record store. It is Stealing Traffic Cones. There's like a scratch or something. I'm not entirely sure. There's like a skit in the middle about not wanting to reduce and dumb down your ideas for other people, and that's sort of a nice thing. But I feel like the little random jab at Lil Uzi and artists like that is just a little uncalled for. Now, obviously, you can dislike whatever you want. You can dislike whatever artists or types of music you want. But I feel like a lot of the people who dislike and diss those kind of artists are against it because it's like, ooh, too dumbed down, braggadocious, or just too self-indulgent. But what I was seeing in a lot of Scubadiver's lyrics was the same sort of self-praising and self-aggrandizing work that I see in those artists. And I like those artists. I don't have a problem with that. I like a whole bunch of different lyrical topics. In fact, I think it'd be boring if everyone was just trying to be deep all the time. It would get really fucking boring and really unfun to listen to, so you just need dumb music sometimes. The main thing that just hit me wrong about it was just that he was picking apart these other artists for things that I was seeing him doing already. So, like, what is your thoughts of the skits on the album, or the overall story of it?
The story to me is fine. I kind of like the concept of the whole album being a bunch of scuba divers. That's what it is. A bunch of scuba divers talking to each other. Obviously, the conversation. Showing like I think that the whole premise of the album is like is immaturity. Because what does someone immature do? They go and steal traffic cones. Someone who doesn't realize that their artists can do different things than what they do. You don't have to put them down for it. Like,
Sure.
Like that's what I think about the story. It is cringy. The skits are cringy. I think Scubadiver likes talking about Lil Uzi Vert because what I remember on Apple Cider Ranch, there is a bar about Lil Uzi Vert somewhere in there. I have to pull up this track so I'll remember it. But yeah, that's what I think Stealing Traffic Cone is all about.
Yeah, I didn't catch on that it was supposed to be multiple Like, I could tell that it was multiple scuba divers talking, because he didn't try to hide his voice or anything. But I didn't get that the concept was it was actually supposed to be multiple scuba divers until, like, the last couple skits or last track or whatever. I don't remember when the last skit was. But it was, like, one of the last ones where Scuba Diver referred to the other scuba diver by name. So that's mainly my main gripe with the album. I feel like that the production was fine, the choruses were fine. I feel like overall it was the most okay Scuba Diver project so far. The only album, of course, is the other one that we haven't talked about, Apple Cider Ranch, is the only one that I outright disliked with a passion, because I just feel like there's a whole lot of points on it where he's going more experimental, and it's definitely an artist trying to find their sound more. Like, I can't remember which track in specific, but it sounded like a complete, just the lowest fidelity recording that you could ever find of just like someone playing the guitar and then rapping over it.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, it was an interesting idea. I liked the idea, but just there were different points in the different tracks that would take me out of it. And like I put in my album of the year review, just like with AJR's album The Click, which I also hate and give a 0.
Oh fuck, AJR's terrible.
It's so fucking bad. There are points on both albums that I can see where it's like, oh, this could go somewhere. This has an interesting melody. This has like an interesting production idea or whatever. But there's just like more on each song that takes me out of the entire experience and whatever, then brings me in. And overall, it's just a pretty negative experience for me. What is your opinion on Apple Cider Ranch?
More or less the same. At the time, I thought it was it was great for what it was at the time. Obviously there's productions like No Oath on there that are like grand and like big, powerful productions. Like
Yeah.
that sample on No Oath, like it's like the bridge sample
Yeah.
where everything just comes in. Like that's something I still admire today. I think No Oath is still one of his best. Is still one of his best productions. But yeah, the feature does it no justice. Apple Cider Ranch uses a lot of offensive stuff in it, which
Yeah.
is I think how it started was he chose the name Scubadiver because he wanted to be like, funny, experimental, all of that, and he wanted to like when I hear Apple Cider Ranch, when I hear some of those bars, I think, is this something Goblin Tyler would have said?
Fair.
Is this something he would have used, like the Boston Marathon, or What Is Your Name, which
Which I like skipped halfway through, I'm pretty sure.
you skip 1 minute through, but the lyrics in that after that, it's pretty. There's nothing else. The sample they uses for the chorus is pretty nice. What Is Your Name is like if those lyrics weren't on that, it would be one of the better songs in the album. 100%. Because after that point, I do quite enjoy the song, even though the mixing can be kind of shady.
Yeah, I excuse the mixing because I know mixing is pretty hard. Mainly vocal mixing is just ridiculously difficult for no reason. Kind of like with the stupid Central C song Doja, with the bar about how can I be homophobic, my bitch is gay or something like that. That that lines like that just immediately take me out of it. It's like, what the fuck? What am I even gonna get if I listen to this further? Am I gonna get more shit like this, or am I gonna get a somewhat okay song? Because from there, in my opinion, if you drop a terrible ass bar like that, it's really hard to bring a song back up into good. Like with the J. Cole song "Dollar in a Dream 3," like "Boy I'm the shit, you can't out fart me." Like that just ruins the song right there. There's just certain lines, in my opinion, that just take you out and ruin it entirely. And just maybe if I went back and just skipped the first minute of the song, I could get through. But it's just like that just took me out of it entirely. And then I don't remember which song the Boston Marathon line was on, but yeah, I really did not like, because they're Goblin.
I Won't Be Around.
Yeah, Goblin era Tyler, he would like say crazy shit like that for a reaction, and I didn't entirely like when he did it. Not to suck Eminem's dick, because I think Eminem is also trash, but like, at least when he did it on the Marshall Mathers LP, like using weird wacky shit or whatever, he had a point to it, to like show that we live in a society, or two, he wouldn't use real tragedies, like when he was on Kim singing about murdering his wife or something, he wasn't using like a real thing where somebody died. He was using a real person, but like he didn't actually do anything to his wife, and he wasn't like actually out there doing it. I believe using someone else's tragedy and trauma and despair just to prove a point about how we might not be around all the time is just a little bit, it didn't really hit me the right way.
It's a little too much.
Yeah.
100%. Some unacceptable stuff about the album, of course. You said it perfectly, that if he would have used situations that weren't actually real for the album's purpose, it would have been much more fine. He could have phrased that much differently, where he didn't have to involve the Boston Marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah, ACR I think is just it's a starting point. It's a point where in the future you can look back at it and say like, oh, this is where he came from. Yeah. This is where he is now. So I think that's why it's still up.
Yeah.
Because I think it's cool to look back at some artists' older work. It's cool to look back at what they came from and how it's really started for them.
Yeah.
That's one thing I think is cool, is technically cool about the album, is that I can just go look back and say, okay, this is Apple Cider Ranch, and then once this new album drops, like the progression is going to be there, and it's going to be interesting to see. So
yeah. It's kind of like seeing where Tyler is now and going back and listening to Bastard and being like, what the actual fuck is this?
Yeah,
because it is quite a shift artistically and sonically. And speaking of Tyler, one of my biggest gripes with particularly Godspeed 2 was that I felt like he was trying to imitate particularly Tyler and Kanye and a lot of the production and grand aesthetics of it. as much as I not enjoy, but like appreciate Collaborate, because I think it's grand chorus and it opens up the album greatly. It feels like it's almost
catchy.
yeah, it's catchy. It feels like it's almost a not like 1-to-1, but pretty similar in structure to Igor's theme by setting up like the album with a sick hook and riffs and just enveloping you into it. And then I felt like that sort of vibe sort of continued where I felt like he was trying to imitate Tyler and Kanye and these other production icons that he looks up to. What do you think about his sort of style, and do you draw those sort of comparisons too?
Yeah, I can draw those comparisons definitely. I can, see that each song, Godspeed 2, has kind of a grand opening, unless you want to count, like, say, like Windows. Windows has a nice soft opening, which it goes into all your kicks and your drums. I think that's one of the best instrumentals on the album, 100%. Yeah, I can definitely see some Kanye and some Tyler, what is it, impressions on it, 100%.
Does that take you out of the album at all, or is that something that you can just kind of look past? Because there's other artists where I can see that they're like paying homage to someone else, or kind of like ripping their style. Like IDK, half the time he sounds like Kanye, but he does it in a way that I enjoy.
Yeah, it doesn't take me out of the album all that much. One thing I really enjoy about Scubadiver is the production is it's nice on the ears most of the time. No, one of the things that, like, obviously if the vocals are good, they're good.
Yeah.
All right, you can appreciate that. And also one of my favorite moments of the live stream was your reaction to Alligator was because you were saying, "Oh, is this guitar not going to space out? It's going to sound shitty like that one song." And then you go back and look at Tuesday, and then you go back to Alligator, and then it actually like opens up. Like,
yeah,
that's one of the,
because it's appreciating how because in a lot of songs that use guitar, they'll do like a minimal intro with a couple strums or something, and it's like lo-fi, and then the beat kicks in, and then it's like full grand mix. I did appreciate that about Alligator, especially looking back at an earlier track where the mix didn't fill out in any sort of way. So I did appreciate that. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that, Stealing Traffic Cones, Godspeed 2, great albums, but there's one album that we should talk about. I don't think you know about this album. This is prehistoric Scubadiver. This is right before Apple Cider Ranch. It's called Scuba Season.
Yeah, I couldn't find that.
Okay, it's on Bandcamp, and you could listen to it right now.
It's on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me pull it up.
And I'll tell you this, all right? You're gonna notice this sounds exactly like Igor. Everything about it. The song Italian Ice is literally What's Good, and then the opening track is literally Igor's theme. Like, I think it's in the description that he wanted to make something that sounded like Igor.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, it's I'm gonna find it right now and try and read it.
Yeah, I found it right here. I could have sworn I looked on Bandcamp, but I just did not find it somehow. But yeah, if you've listened to the whole thing front to back, just know I'm okay and don't need help. It's a story I thought of and thought it would be a cool idea to also share. Also, a big inspiration from Tyler, the Creator, and Kanye, as well as Emperor Penguin. Scuba Season is the debut album by Scubadiver, and is a concept album that tackles depression and rejection as you've never heard it before, with lush grooves and soulful melodies, melancholic instrumentals, rapping and singing, all from Scubadiver. Every piece of mixing and arranging, and every note was played specifically by this 15-year-old producer, writer, and singer and rapper. I could have sworn that I looked for, because I maybe I didn't look hard enough, but I went on Google, went on YouTube, Spotify, whatever, because sometimes you can find a rip of these things on Spotify. But you said the intro sounds almost exactly like Igor's theme.
Yeah, starts it off very synthy, then goes into some rapping, and then the song Italian Ice is very What's Good. It's like, it's almost exactly like it. The flow is exactly the same, but he even admits that he's going for a kind of Igor-esque type album. So yeah. So yeah, that's like the forgotten Scubadiver album.
The prehistoric lore.
Yeah, the prehistoric lore, exactly. Scubadiver doesn't like talking about this one. He doesn't consider it one of his albums anymore. Before, back in the Apple Cider Ranch day, when he was releasing Apple Cider Ranch, he said my second album. But now he's going on to his fourth album, and he's calling it his fourth album, not his fifth album. So he doesn't recognize it as one of his albums anymore.
Fair.
It's just because with Bandcamp, I don't think you can take it off. So I don't know.
It'd still be good to go back look at, because like there are some old, like very old mixtapes from different artists that you can see. It's like completely different. Like even just J. Cole's first two albums, you can go back and see that he's going for a different thing entirely. Kind of just doing a Drake ripoff at some points on his first album, which is nice to go back and see that he started off as looking up to these other artists, and then now pretty much he has a whole generation looking up to him, which is always cool to see. So I guess in the future, if Scuba becomes a big icon, you can go back and look at that and see that he's looking up to these other artists.
Yeah. Yeah, that album's really the starting point. I think that's one of his that's his first actual music drop. I don't know if he's dropped music before that because it doesn't show on Bandcamp, but I think there is stuff at the bottom of his YouTube. But yeah, you could tell that he's really young into his production. You know, the vocals, if you thought Apple Cider Ranch's vocals were bad, you haven't you need to listen to Scuba Season. But yeah, you can't knock him for it because it's the start.
It's the very first thing he's done.
It's the start of everything. Everyone's first stuff's gonna be pretty bad. So yeah, unless you're like Kanye, who goes out and drops those two little mixtapes. What are they called? Yeah, but
like
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, right?
Like the demo tapes or whatever.
Yeah. You can find like vinyls at them in like Record Store Day or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think I've seen them. I've seen replicas and stuff. So, but yeah, let's go on to Nation.
Nation, the EP that I've rated the highest. I gave it like a 5 or 6. Really, I don't have a problem with really any of the tracks here. I think that they're all pretty decent. In my live stream, by the time I got to listening to that project again, I was pretty tired because I had been listening to Scuba for like 3 hours at that point. Yeah, I really don't have a problem with any of the songs on there. The only one that does stand out is the title track Nation to me, because the chorus is catchy, the vocals are fine, the production is really nice, and I think it's overall easily the best track he's done in my opinion. What's your opinion on the EP?
It's my favorite Scubadiver work so far, just cause of I think the vocals were a lot better. They're a lot sharper, but not to the point where they're clipping your headphones. And I thought all the pitched up vocals were done much better.
Yeah.
And I remember I sat in Scubadiver's DMs for 2 months begging him to drop the single Nation. Because I heard a 15-second snippet of it on TikTok, and I literally spammed them with DMs saying, bro, you gotta drop Nation. You gotta drop Nation. And right before then, he put out a poll which said, which one do you want me to drop? Do you want me to drop Cinnamon Roll? Do you want me to drop Nation? Or do you want me to drop the 315 or whatever the name is? The 315 is an unreleased Scubadiver track. It's one of the best unreleased Scubadiver tracks out, but it ain't out, so I'm kind of sad about that. Nation's a good EP in my books. I have it rated as like an 80 on Album of the Year. And yeah, my favorite track on there is Nation. My second favorite is Soprano. I know you don't like Soprano.
Yeah, mainly just because some of the lyrics are just kind of and especially because that's the one that comes right after Nation, right? That's the closing track of the EP. Yeah, I feel like it takes what the EP was going for and just kind of ends it in a sort of weak way, which leaves a sort of sour taste for the project, because one of the biggest things that you can do on a project is the opening track and the closing track are two of the most important, because what you do in the middle, it's all good, and obviously it matters too, but how you open the project and how you close the project are really the two most memorable things, and I feel like Soprano didn't close it in the best way that it could have.
Soprano is a weird song because the bars in it, like the trigonometry bar, I'm a big lyric analysis by Scubadiver. I don't know what the significance of that bar is. I really don't. And like I think the production's on it really cool. I think the bridge with all the crazy yelling and stuff, and the off pitched auto tune. I think
Hmm.
that's a cooler part of the song because it transitions. It has a tempo switch right into the end of the track, which I think is quite. I think that's one of Scubadiver's most beautiful outros
I
because he
have to
takes.
refresh on it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And the first two tracks are, I think Zigzag is third best song. The View is the worst song on Nation, but the first line is I'm inspirational, just ask the people I inspire.
Yeah,
I remember the first time I heard that I was like, what? No, but there's a clean part in that song. The Holy Water is my favorite beverage, and then transition into a beat. I like that part. That's a good part of the song.
fair. That opening line is pretty much like one of those literal memes where yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's just so on the nose that you might as well just be breaking it. It's just so a bit too forward for my liking. And then pretty much all we have left to talk about is the upcoming Scubadiver project, and the two singles that he released for it, which were In the Blink of an Eye and Double Downward Spiral. First, what are your opinions on these tracks?
Yeah, just before we get to that, I want to say one more thing about Nation. All right, Scuba Diver released this thing called a Good Conversation on YouTube. It's a 30-minute long conversation about his music, right? And
Mm-hmm.
he said that Nation was originally an album, right? But he had
Mm-hmm.
something more grand planned in his mind, something more better for the year of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So he shrunk it down to those four songs and he released it. So I think Soprano still would have been the original outro, cause, and he said that the whole premise of that album was gonna be like a Mr. Morale, a Big Steppers type deal. It's a therapy session.
All
He
right.
goes around, and the album starts off with like the air conditioning starting up, and he says, "Okay, this is what I feel," and then like I think it starts off with The View, right then and there. Yeah, the new album, the new singles. When I first heard Blink of an Eye, I was a little on the fence about it just because the production was great, but the mixing on the production wasn't great. It felt all so centered.
Yeah.
There wasn't much like there wasn't much. It didn't expand fully, in
Yeah,
my
it feels
opinion.
like it's all just completely so compressed together where it just feels like a sandwich of just electronics. And I like me some good electronic music and synth pop and whatever. I've been, for some reason, binging Dead Mouse. I've just been on a fucking electronic binge for the past couple weeks. But that is just not good electronic to me. It's just so bunched together and so synthetic and lifeless to me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the song though. I think what he said he's going from this album's central focus is about time, and how he's going into college now,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, yeah, it almost feels like he's running out of time. What the future is going to be like, and one of the lines in that song is the future is a giant nihilistic party. And I think what he means by that is, what he thinks about himself and how it's going to go for him in the future during college.
Just that overwhelming feeling that like maybe nothing will get better or nothing is going to be good from here on out.
Yeah, um, and the chorus is quite catchy because I feel like in the chorus things like it's still very compressed, but I feel like things start to open up a little more. You know, the one thing with this new production and mixing is that the lyrics are a little hard to,
Make out.
a make out, yeah. So I've asked him to put the lyrics up on Genius. And then Double Downward Spiral is much better. It's a long binge, but it's a much better song. The production on the song is, I think, some of the best Scuba Divers ever put out. It's all spacey and it's you can hear it far back in your headphones. Like,
Yeah, it definitely feels a lot more open and spacious than in the blink of an eye did.
yeah, 100%. I can't understand most of the lyrics. The only one, like you missed a very good part of the song, which was the dance break he put in, which is great, because I think what the lyrics were before that was reincarnation looms a pending doom, and then it goes into a kind of dance break thing. But then the really other lyrics I can put out in that song are, but you gotta really feel the sunset or watch it wash away, and another ship has sailed.
Hmm.
So, and then he says, looking for something, something so far, and they double downward spiral straight to my heart. That's that's really a lot of it you can make out of it. So I hope he gets some lyrics up on Spotify.
Yeah, because
But I
it would definitely make following along with the album once it drops a little bit easier. I didn't entirely get through In the Blink of an Eye, just because, yeah, the overcompression really took me out of the song. Because I could tell he's definitely going for a different thing. He's definitely going for more synth pop, electronic dance direction. But I just felt like the overcompression and overall mix of it really took me out of it. And then Double Downward Spiral, I really did appreciate the production and mixing a bit more on there. But trying to remember any melody or whatever from it, I just cannot recall it in my head. But obviously when the album drops again, I'll listen to both the songs in full, the full album in full, probably make a video on it.
So the big question is here. This is the big question, the big question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you anticipating this new Scubadiver album?
I mean, in a way, yeah. It'll definitely be interesting to see what he does, and if he takes this direction in a good, takes this style in a good direction, and these singles aren't just like the best of the bunch, because I'm not entirely enjoying these singles, and so if this is what the album can do at its best, I don't really know how I'm gonna feel at its worst. So in a way, I'm anticipating it.
Yeah. I'm really excited for this album just because I think where he's going stylistically right now is quite cool.
Mm-hmm.
When the production's there, it's great. Like it's very pleasing to the ears. That's what I think. I think that listening to these new Scubadiver songs, other than the intro and a few parts of Blink of an Eye, I'm quite enjoying what I'm hearing so far. And I think it's the right step in the right direction. And in your video, in your live stream, I don't know if it was someone in the comments, but we're during the Blink of an Eye, someone said he got bullied out of rapping. I don't think he got bullied out of rapping. His videos aren't doing great recently. It's lots of his snippets, and
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any like bad criticism on him lately.
Yeah,
So I don't think he's been bullied out of rapping. So
Yeah, for
totally.
the most part, for all the scuba diver criticism that I've seen, I've been the most negative. Like anyone that I see on Instagram or YouTube or whatever talking about Scuba's music, they're always like praising him. And as much as I'd love to praise his music, it just wouldn't be genuine for me. This is just my opinion. I just haven't really enjoyed what I've heard so far. Maybe that'll change with this album. Hopefully it does, because I'd like to be as passionate about his music as it seems like a lot of people are. But just so far, nothing other than Nation has really clicked with me. Because Nation I actually put in my likes on Spotify. I think it's a genuinely good song. Like genuinely like an 8 out of 10 song. It's just nothing else he's done for me has reached that same level.
Yeah, there's a lot of good moments in his discography, and there's a lot of bad moments in the discography. And I'm not gonna sit here and completely meat ride and say, "Oh my God, everything in here is amazing." I'm a huge fan of Scubadiver. I can all say that, but I'm not gonna sugarcoat and say like, "Oh, this is all amazing." I'm gonna speak my truth, and I'm gonna be honest. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's really the best thing that anyone can do with any artist, really.
and I think I'm guessing the album will be shorter than Godspeed 2, but I think the songs will be longer. Because he posted the collection of patches on his Instagram, and I think that could be possibly the track list. And there's 8 of them. So,
Okay.
we'll see. In my opinion, Scubadiver is like some of the best single games though. Like his singles are all they're all pretty good. I know you don't like third person prayer, the ones like I pray.
Yeah.
I pray that all your mistakes are not just coincidental.
Yeah,
And
because
then
I feel like the lyrical aspect is just a little bit too fake deep for me. Like I feel like there's other artists who do, like it feels like he's trying to emulate a more lyrical thing, but without having a whole lot to say, if that makes sense.
yeah, and then you stopped it at one part. It said, "I pray that when you're driving home, you never need to brake," and you took it completely wrong. You said, "What? You hope he drives into traffic? You hope he drives into traffic?" But the real meaning behind that is he hopes that he never has to hit any like stop signs, red lights, like just a nice ride home so he can get back to listening to his music, because it's like he's praying for himself. That's what the song is.
Fair. Because yeah, third person
So
prayer, praying like out of the body, praying for the self or whatever.
yeah,
I just I like the production on that song quite a bit. I just didn't really care for the lyrical aspect, which is one of my biggest problems with Scubadiver overall. Is I feel like he has good production ideas and there are some melodies and rhyme schemes or whatever I like, but it's just the overall lyrics either take me out of it entirely or just don't do anything for me.
yeah. But that's one of his better lyrical performances, in my opinion. There's not much cringe in the song. I think the some of the bars are quite good. Like, I hope your headphones never die because they are safety net.
Hmm.
Like, that's a good transition into the instrumental break, which yeah, I think there's lots of good lyrics in that song. I think when Scuba Diver's at his best and he shows that he's like committed to putting in this time and effort into these songs, I think there really is something there. Like,
Fair.
it's just sometimes the execution is a little off.
Yeah.
But for me, that's one thing that makes his music so intriguing to me, because I think it's all very raw. It sounds like someone like a teen is making some music. So
Yeah,
it's
just trying their
just doing his thing,
Yeah.
and making his music. So that's one thing I admire about Scuba Diver.
But yeah,
So
I think this has been a pretty good interview. Well, anything you would like to plug or close out with?
yeah, go listen to Scuba Diver. Go if you haven't listened to his music, go try it out. Go do exactly what Music Optimistic did. So
Because yeah, don't just take my opinion or any other people's opinion on any sort of music. Obviously, go listen to something for yourself. If you like it, you like it. You don't like it, you don't like it. Don't let someone else entirely define your opinion. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. However, next time you should probably remember to disable the fucking chat box. Anyway, bye.